Welcome back. All right, so sort of a last minute primer because tomorrow it's free agency, so this is the last look at it. Johnny Gaudreau's hitting the market, so I wish I was wearing a Flames jersey to say, hey, Gaudreau signed last minute with Calgary, but he is not. So I'm sure this will be gone over many, many years down the road as to where things fell apart between Gaudreau and the Flames, but all indications seem to be that he'd like to play at home or near home, and so we'll have some looks at where he may end up tomorrow. I would think he'll have his mind made up early tomorrow. But there were negotiations between he and the Flames right down to the last moment. Frank Saravelli basically saying that they were willing to give him whatever he wanted, basically. 8-year deal at 10 plus million, maybe as high as 11 million as the cap hit was offered. One of the highest priced players in the league if he had signed that, and in the end it just wasn't about money for him. He just wants to move on. Whether or not this has an effect on their ability to bring Matthew Tkachuk back, who's a restricted free agent, so they have the rights to him. But what that does with Matthew Tkachuk and what he wants to do remains to be seen. Does this have an effect on Tkachuk's demand or what he's looking for or where he's looking to end up? Because, again, restricted free agent, they have the rights over him. But if he says, I think I'd like to play elsewhere. And then you have the question come up, too. If we see two-star players exit the Flames at the same time, does that influence other players and their ability or their desire to go to Calgary? So there are some effects here that start to rear their ugly head. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I'd love to see Tkachuk stay in Calgary. As a Canuck fan, I always think that when the Canucks and the Flames battle, it's the same as Boston and Montreal, right? I consider Calgary the best rival for the Canucks. Over the decades I've watched hockey, the Flames are a consistent rival, and it's always more fun when both teams are good. So hopefully the Flames can take the cap space they'd be saving by not signing Gaudreau to that huge money contract, and they go out and pick somebody up tomorrow. And I would think if they can pick somebody up early in the market tomorrow, that might also help to convince Matthew Tkachuk, we've still got things on track, look who we brought in, we're okay. But there is no free agent out there that's going to be this magic bullet to replace what Johnny Gaudreau was to this team. So the Flames are going to be in for a period of some adjustment here. Then we get into some re-signings that were announced today. Alex Edler has opted to stay with the Kings rather than test the market. 1 year at league minimum $750,000. Edler's been a good addition for the Kings. I think they've helped extend his career, as this contract shows. For Edler, always wish him well. To me, he's always a Canuck, but yes, he's a King at this stage, and I do wish him the best. He played well for the Kings last year. It was nice to finally see him get that 100th goal, which many in Vancouver fandom were starting to wonder if he'd ever get. Vinny Hinostroza re-signs with Buffalo rather than going to market. 1 year deal at $1.7 million for Hinostroza. Not bad. Good deal. And honestly, Hinostroza was one of those Sabres that I thought had a good second half to the season. I'm glad that he's opted to go back. I'm glad they're bringing him back. I think this is a good move all around. So Vinny Hinostroza will stay with the Buffalo Sabres. And I might be one of the few that thinks that's awesome and great. Just because I've been a Hinostroza fan since the first time he was with Chicago. Scotty Bowman, speaking of Chicago, a little bit of a segue there, has announced that he's left his advisory role with the Chicago Blackhawks. He actually left it on July 1st. So it sounds like it was just he didn't renew his contract with the team. For Scotty Bowman, of course, Hall of Fame resume, as he's already got his Hall of Fame ring and all of that, and lots of Stanley Cup rings. I don't know, he's up to what, 20? Anyways, Scotty Bowman, it feels like it. Scotty Bowman, if he decides to stay in hockey, and he announced with this announcement he wants to stay in hockey in some capacity, there's no shortage of teams that would not want to bring him in on an advisory role. He has been around the game since the mid-'60s. So, yeah, I would think he'd be a popular one for teams to target in terms of, hey, can you come in and advise us? Maybe he ends up in Ottawa, right? Maybe he ends up in Ottawa on an advisory role. It also has been confirmed that the Dallas Stars pending free agent Braden Holtby will not be taking any calls tomorrow. So Frank Saravelli reported this initially. It has now been confirmed that Holtby, due to injury, is likely unable to play this season. and it has him considering a full-on retirement from his career, which would be a shame. I remember it doesn't feel like it was that long ago that Holtby was on a great pace with the win record he had in Washington. His win-loss record was fantastic, and he was just pegging off the wins. And it was in the back of my mind of, if he could keep this up, he could threaten to, be in the top 4, top 5 all time. He didn't keep it up, but Holtby, I thought, had a decent run there in Dallas and then was sidelined with injury. And now it looks like that's probably taken him out for the rest of his career. The Stars are also in the market for a right-handed defenseman, which the Carolina Hurricanes are in the market for as well. Right-handed defensemen are very popular. This is why when a team takes a right-handed defenseman and I see fans saying, oh, we already had too many right-handed defensemen. Lots of teams that lead for right-handed defensemen if they're available. So LeBrun is reporting that the Carolina Hurricanes have kicked the tires on both Petrie and Burns, and that these may be players that Dallas is looking at because they're losing Klingberg, which means that Klingberg might end up in Carolina. So there's a lot of discussion about who ends up where. Kemper to Washington seems highly likely as an example. And so all of this cloud and confusion will be cleared up tomorrow morning. Most of the players that we're most anxious to see where they end up, we will know pretty quickly where they end up. And so I'm looking forward to reporting on all that for all you fine people. And then I'll get back into the playlists. So for people wondering, where's the playlists? Where's the other 2 divisions of draft picks? Just save that until after free agency now, because one thing I've learned over the years is when I make all those other videos, they just get buried. People just don't see it in their feed. They're not really looking for that, and then they just get buried. And the view count doesn't pick up a week later for a video I did a week earlier, so better off to save that until the free agency period really calms down, which is going to take a little while. An aside that I don't have on the board, I listened to part of an interview with Jim Rutherford in local media today, and Rutherford basically said the Canucks don't expect to be big players in this year's market. Also pushed back on the reports that JT Miller has been offered around, said they have not been close to any kind of a trade of JT Miller. They still don't see any rush to move JT Miller. So one of 2 things are happening. Either the media has it completely wrong when it comes to the JT Miller rumors, or the Canucks are just not talking about it. And so they're purposely muddying the waters so people may not know what's going on. But either way, the JT Miller discussion is still there. It doesn't sound like the Canucks are going to be in for anything big. He's counting on Kuzmenko coming in and making a difference. And so it sounds like with the Canucks, the expectation is to push for the playoffs, maybe make the playoffs, but not seeing themselves as Stanley Cup contenders yet. So not trying to make those really big signings and big moves because they don't feel they're there yet. But they're trying to build to that. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.